Well, hey everybody, and welcome to SPERO DEI. You know, today is Palm Sunday, so I wish you a happy Palm Sunday. And I'm so glad that you are tuning in, and I hope wherever you are, I really hope it's a good season for you. But if it's not, if you're in a tougher season, I hope your experience here today with SPERO DEI, I hope it brings you some hope, some encouragement, some peace. I hope you feel included, whoever you are. And even online, you are among a community that really relates to your story. So many of us have been searching for a different kind of Christian spirituality because it's deep in our heart. And we haven't always felt connected to the whole box out there. So I do want to welcome you. Well, a few weeks back, when the Christian season of Lent was beginning, I introduced you to this Greek word metanoia, which has several meanings. One of them, it means move in a new direction. Another meaning, it means move in the flow of God. And then the other one is to go beyond your current perspective. Go beyond that. In fact, metanoia is the very word that Jesus used to announce his message. One of the things I also did was I said, what if we, instead of having a season of Lent, which so many times carries the baggage of penance and punishment, what if we had a season of metanoia? And instead of the mark of ashes, which is the symbol of death, what if we had some sort of symbol of life? Well, I never figured that out, and I still haven't. So maybe next year we can have a season of metanoia and kind of figure out some season of life. But for the last couple weeks, one of the things I've been talking about is spiritual development and moving away from the old perspective that we develop spiritually through spiritual growth, but that we actually develop spiritually when we are awakened. So today I want to talk about signs. As we wrap this up, I want to talk about signs that you are awakening. I can't tell you how to awaken. I can't tell you what to do to awaken, per se. That's your story, and it has to be your story. But what I can share with you is signs that you are awakening. And what's ironic about these signs is when you're experiencing these things, you actually think you're not awakening, or you think nothing is happening, or you think something bad is happening. But no, these are the actual signs that you are awakening. So let me first go to a Palm Sunday scripture, walk us through that, and then we'll jump into the signs. But let me take you to the first Palm Sunday in the Gospel of Matthew. They brought the donkey and its colt and laid some clothes on their backs. Then Jesus got on. Many people spread clothes in the road, while others put down palm branches, which they had cut from the trees. Some people walked ahead of Jesus, and others followed behind. And then I'll continue the story from Luke. They shouted, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord." Some of the religious leaders in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, make your disciples stop shouting." But Jesus answered, "If they keep quiet, these stones will start shouting." When Jesus came closer and could see Jerusalem, he cried. And he said, If only you knew on this of all days the things that lead to peace. But now they're hidden from your eyes because you didn't recognize the time of your gracious visit from God. Isn't it interesting that the passage says they are hidden from their eyes? In this passage, the religious leaders, they remain blind. They remain unawakened because they stay trapped in their own perspective. Jesus' followers, they are waking up. Now, they're not gaining something new. They're not leaving their Judaism for some new religion called Christianity. No. This waking up, it's happening all within the elements of their own tradition. In fact, for them, this waking up is centering them deeper at the center of what their tradition believes. That's what they feel. And for them, they feel truer in their faith than ever before. But they are merely just at a threshold. They're about to go through this major existential transition, and there's going to be lots of waiting ahead. There's going to be lots of, this thing you're into, that's not the real thing. We have the real thing, and you left it. Oh, there's going to be lots of that ahead. There's going to be lots of persecution ahead. Spiritual awakening, it's often disruptive in all kinds of ways. The angst, the disruption, that's actually part of the validation that something is really awakening within you. So again, I can't tell you your story of awakening. I can't even tell you how to awaken. That's your story. That's your personal thing. But what I can do is I'll share some of these signs that it's actually happening, that something bad isn't happening to you, but something real is happening within you. So here's the first sign that you're awakening. You feel disconnected and detached. Yeah, disconnection and detachment is a sign that you are awakening. We see this with Paul just after the Damascus Road. We see this with Thomas just after the first Easter. Peter's entire arc is disruptive this way. And at first, when you begin to spiritually awaken, it can just feel overwhelming and confusing. You feel like you're losing something. It can feel like everything you thought to be true in your life, that it's just a lie. And even the research confirms this. So disconnection and detached, you can start to feel that from the people, from the friends, from the things that you used to enjoy, the ones who gave you your very community. Liz and I, we experienced a lot of loss when we went through this. Pastors and ministers who used to include me, they don't even talk to me now. Now, I'm not a victim here, no way, and you're not a victim here. But detachment and disconnection, this could be the very sign that you're waking up. I remember saying to my therapist, I remember saying to him, the older I get, the more socially awkward I feel. And without even a blink of an eye, he goes, oh yeah, that's true, David. You are awkward. And I'm thinking, whoa, when he first said that, it kind of hurt my feelings. I was hoping he'd say, no, David, you're not awkward at all. It's just your perception. You're very cool. But no, he goes, oh yeah, you're awkward. But then he said this. He said, David, when we start to wake up to the things that our unhealthy ego just blindly was affirmed by, where we got our worth from, or see things differently, we just feel awkward. And when we're around those environments, we feel awkward. So I just want to say, hang in there through the detachment, through all of this. It might mean awakening is happening. Here's the second thing that might let you know you're awakening. certain relationships, they could start to shift. This could actually be a sign. Listen, spiritual awakenings, they're transformative, and the people in our lives, they're not always going to appreciate that and see that. And you might feel like your loved ones, your friends, you might go, man, they just don't understand me at all. One of the researchers encouraged us in this when that happens. You can ask those people to follow a boundary, at least of respecting you. Like, you don't have to agree with me, but please respect me. Here's another sign that you might be awakening, and this one's a big of course. You begin to reevaluate everything you believe. Of course, this is a major sign. Spiritually awakening is you begin to reevaluate everything you believe, and that starts to shift, and you might start to move towards new significant things you hold true, right? And you might, your certain culture that you were part of, your Christian culture, it's not working for you anymore. You begin to let go of that belief system or a toxic belief system because you're transforming now. And listen, you didn't plan on this happening. You didn't set a date and go, oh, this is going to happen. It just happens, doesn't it? There's no rhyme or reason, especially when someone says, stop that. You can't. It just happens. Here's another one that lets you know you might be awakening. You just feel alone. Aloneness can be a sure sign that you're awakening. Have you ever spent time in the Psalms? The Psalms are just a mix of awakening juxtaposed to despair. And, you can just, when you're going through this, you feel alone. Listen, you've been flipped upside down, and the people who've been significant to you and with you, when they're not on the same wave with you, you feel that. It's lonely. Listen, just this year, I lost 3 significant friendships of lifelong relationships that they just can't deal with my spiritual awakening. Just this past week, Liz and I went to a funeral of a friend that we've known since the 1980s. And when we were at this funeral, we ran into some other good friends that we used to be on staff with this old ministry we're part of. And so the pastor person guy turned to me, he said, so David, where are you pastoring now? So I told him about SPERO DEI, and you could just see this stunned look on his face. In fact, the only thing he could utter was, oh. But here's what I want to say. Part of this SPERO DEI community, you're among friends. I hope this can be a place for you. Okay, one last sign, and this one is really, really hopeful. One of the signs is you feel connected, very connected to the present. You suddenly feel like everything belongs. While maybe you feel less connected to friends, to family, to kind of an old perspective, something amazing is happening in you, and you start to feel more alive. Your heart is deepening. Your love and compassion is expanding. You start to actually feel connected and affinity with people who are much different than you, who believe different than you. You start to feel connected to yourself. And those hard things I just explained, they may be hard, but they start to let you know you're alive. Something is moving in you. You feel more connected to your body. You feel like everything is connected. As Richard Rohr says, everything belongs. You feel like God is there, connected to it all, and your sense of interconnectedness to it all. And I'll tell you what, it's really quite moving. You feel alive. You feel like you're waking up. So these are just some of the signs. And so I just want to encourage you to go with it. Just move in that flow and don't resist it. Just be in it, don't judge it, and just go with it. You know, this awakening, it can just put you in a whole season of liminal space. Have you ever heard that phrase before, liminal space? It actually comes from a Latin word called limen, L-I-M-E-N. The word literally means threshold. It's actually where anthropologists get the word liminality, liminal space. It's this stage between what was and then what's next. It's that in-between time when you feel all the ambiguity, you feel all the disorientation. And in anthropology, it's this transition stage. You no longer have your pre-ritual anymore. That doesn't hold you up. You've moved from that. You haven't completed your rite of passage. And you're just in this awkward transitional time, liminal space. And when we go through such transitions, we of course naturally want to ascend, we want to obtain, we want to get somewhere else, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's very human. But we want to get through the weirdness and the discomfort of our transitions. It's even how in Christian spirituality, how we normally have approached spiritual growth, right? We need to ascend to something. We need to gain something. We need to grow. But spiritual awakening is different from that. It's actually the opposite. Spiritual awakening teaches us not to ascend, it teaches us to descend. In Christian theology, it's learning the way of the cross, the way of the tears. It's learning the way of letting go. It's about descending. And when you are in the process of awakening, you're just in this whole melee of waiting. But as confusing as all of this is the time that awakening is happening. When you are in this liminal time, the awakening, it's going on. It's actually happening. Our eyes might not be fully opened yet, but all of this, it just leads us into the liminality of it. It leads us into our transformation. It's what begins to wake us up. It's awakening this new experience. It's what creates this enlightenment of heart. And here's why there is something very important here. You see, in anthropology, when it comes to certain cultures' initiation rites, people didn't assume, they just didn't assume, they didn't just go, just by waking up every day or believing in something or functioning in this construct, they didn't just assume, I'll end up getting what I need to know. That's not how it worked. They needed to go into this time of transition. Something needed to happen. And in our own lives, spiritually, we shouldn't assume that either. Sometimes we have to be displaced. Sometimes we have to be shocked. We have to be woken up. Something has to teach us to look at the world and to look at our lives different. Something needs to wake us up that there is something much bigger out there that I need to see. Now, I don't assume to know about your awakening or the process that you need to go through. I won't do that. And obviously, there are plenty of religious people in my job that would love to tell you, God is saying this, God is saying this, this is what God is up to. I'm not going to do that to you. And even though I'm a minister, I would never do that, because I don't know what's best for you. You have to awaken to your life. And just because I'm a minister, a pastor, I have no special knowledge or understanding of your life. And as I often say, run from anybody who tells you they do have that kind of role in your life. But this awakening, it's what has happened and what is happening to a whole bunch of us. There is some sort of deconstruction. There is this evolving. Something is being discovered. We're awakening that there is whole bigger life, a bigger world, a bigger God than just my version of God or just my version of God's world. It's much bigger. God is much bigger. God is much more far-reaching than I ever imagined. And God's world is much more accepting and much more including than I imagined. And when you begin to awaken, you start to see enchantment everywhere. You start to feel your emotions. You go, I can think intelligently and still be spiritual. Listen, if what we bring to our spiritual faith, if it's just business as usual, which this is why Jesus is crying over Jerusalem, they won't awaken. They still insist on viewing God as usual. If that's the case, we never move beyond our version of God. And on that first Palm Sunday, what Jesus taught them is they needed to open up, to awaken to a new thing so they could see it. But this is what he said to the spiritually asleep in verse 42. Jesus said, "If only you knew on this of all days the things that lead to peace. But now they're hidden from your eyes because you didn't recognize, you didn't see the time of your gracious visit from God." So something new and transformative, it can really happen. But if you and I just stick with the same old view, we stay in slumber and we miss the descending, which is the awakening. You know, here's how Jesus put the whole descending thing in John 12. Unless the grain of wheat dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. As St. John of the Cross said in the 16th century, he described our gods each must die until we find the true God. Or as Meister Eckhart put it in the 13th century, let us pray to God that we may be free of God, which means be free of our version of God. And in my experience, these are the virtues of spiritual transformation, but they come hard. There is a descent. Most of us have to crawl our way to them. Most of us go through a process of letting go our ego self, our small self, right? It's hard, and sometimes it takes an emotional thing, sometimes it takes a circumstantial thing. Remember the Old Testament's Jonah? He didn't dive over the edge of the boat on his own, which going over the boat ultimately led him to his transformation. No, he had to actually be thrown over for it to happen. Same thing happened with Paul. He wasn't just setting sail in the sunny Greek Isles and then write about all this spiritual awakening. No, he had to be shipwrecked in a storm in order to transform. But here is the amazing opportunity we have, and it's right there. In awakening, in this liminal space, we sometimes need to not do, we need to not perform according to these usual spiritual growth patterns, which usually means we have to do something. No, maybe we need to stop and rest and let go. Maybe we need to let go of control. Maybe we need to falter and fail in a certain dimension of life. Maybe we need to be silent instead of talking. Maybe we need to experience emptiness instead of fulfillment, anonymity instead of a persona, stillness instead of a movement. It's in these kind of liminal spaces where it happens. And we can't intentionally, when we descend, come back up. No, we need to stay in there. This is where we face the dark things in us. This is where our ego lets go of these false things that boost it up. This is where we face the dark things and can heal. This is what the descent is. So listen, if you are experiencing one or some or all of these things, it's not where is the awakening happening, or I guess God must not be there, or I must just be losing something. No. If you're experiencing all or some of these things, oh, you're awakening. The awakening is happening. Let's say a prayer before we go. God, I pray that we would hold these things. Experiencing these things, oh my gosh, it's real and it's hard. It's disorienting. It's ambiguous. It's challenging. We feel the loss. We just feel like we're losing something. But God, may we hold on to the spiritual irony of this. What's actually happening in this liminal space is, our eyes are waking up. We are waking up from our slumber. And all these signs are the uncomfortability of a new orientation. But as we put one foot in front of the other, through our reliant trust in you, we will continue to see as we have never seen before. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
My suffering doesn't mean my Father's forgotten me. My wandering isn't threatening. My Father sits here with me. My Father sits here with me. And what if broken just means I'm open? And what if this is what it looks like to receive? Though my journey has been filled with sorrow, what if this is where you wanna meet with me? And what if this is where you show me how to be free? More faithful than my closest friend, you've always been here with me. Love without end, love that defends. You'll always be here with me. I know you'll always be here with me. And what if broken I know I won't stay broken, and I won't stay empty. I won't stay broken. I won't stay empty for long, 'cause you fill me up, God. I won't stay broken, no. I won't stay empty for long, 'cause you build me up, God. I won't stay broken for long, no. Oh, I won't stay empty for long, 'cause you fill me up, God. I won't stay broken for long. I know I won't stay empty for long, 'cause I'm broken and I'm open, and I know this is what it looks like to receive. Even though my journey has been filled with sorrow, I know this is where you want me with me. And I know this is where you show me. I know this is where you show me. I know this is where you show me I can be free.
After all these years, I still love you. Through every single tear we've ever cried. 'Cause after all these years, I brought the two of us right here. No place I'd rather be. After all these years, it takes a little faith for a man to move a mountain. Takes a whole lot more to move a man set in his ways. But there's a way about you that leads me to redemption. You always keep me moving after all these years. And after all these years, I still love you. Through every single tear we've ever cried. After all these years, I brought the two of us right here. No place I'd rather be. After all these
years. So that's our service for today. I'm Sam Owens-Pyle, and I'm a member here at SPERO DEI, and I hope that that message spoke to you as it did to me. There's so many ways to connect here, whether you're here today, you're watching online. You can be part of events, you can be part of book clubs. Just check out sparrowdei.com, our Church Center app, or any of our social media channels to find out more. Another way you can connect is to give to the church. And you can donate online, you can donate through the app, and you can donate if you're here with us at SPERO DEI. So thank you for joining us.